When it comes to leaks, usually the dude who's posting these leaks is laughing at us from the other side of the screen, and that's probably the case right now. Let's see. Hi folks, it's Andy, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the new DLC leaks which are doing the rounds at the moment, as well as some fresh hotcake rumours about the new Assassin's Creed game coming this year. Lots to talk about, so let's get going. First up though, big shout out to you lads who are liking, commenting and subscribing. It makes making these videos in my spare time all worth it, and it helps the channel out massively. So you guys are badass, you're the best, thanks so much. Now with a big IP like Assassin's Creed, we've always had loads of rumours and leaks throughout the years on these new games. I actually remember the internet going mad over the Division Viking leak, but we don't need a small amount of salt here. We need a lot of it because these leaks are from 4chan. But if I remember correctly, Valhalla Ragnarok, as it was called then, originally came from a 4chan rumours. So that is something to consider going forward. But I do think there are potentially legit things in this post which is at the very least worth talking about and speculating on, particularly the DLC stuff. First off, this new game is supposedly to be placed in the 17th century Indian subcontinent. So we'll be able to travel to India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, which means that this map is going to be bigger than Valhalla. If this is true, I mean, I would actually like the maps to be particularly smaller, to be honest, with more stuff to do in them personally, because there comes a point with these large maps, are they actually too big? I mean, sometimes you're just traveling for too long. That can be a novelty that just wears off. It's like BRB, I'm going to auto travel while I go get a coffee. In this 17th century setting though, and we all do know that UB loves creating games in historically accurate time periods, we've got two factions at the time who are fighting over the Indian continent as a whole. The British East India Trading Company and the Dutch East India Trading Company. According to these leaks, they will be the two rival factions that the protagonist will find herself in. And that's right, no more male or female characters. It seems that we're going to be heading back to the old days of playing with one protagonist, which I actually think is a good thing. I mean, it grounds the experience a little bit more for me, and we'll be playing as a female character in this one. So, you know, these links so far sound pretty good. I mean, I wish we were kind of getting another Edward, Kenway or Ezio, but hey, this does seem like a bit of a change of pace, and it could be decent. What is also cool in that kind of time period is the construction of the Taj Mahal, which I'd actually really like to experience in game because Ubisoft genuinely do a good job with historical buildings, in my honest opinion. There's also, and here we go lads, no naval combat being discussed this far. The leak itself actually says that there isn't any naval combat, which is superb, because if this leak is correct, I don't want to be doing any sort of naval combat. But what I would say is that the East India Company, when I heard that, I immediately thought of ships. But saying that, it could potentially be a copy and paste from Black Flag, and you know what, I actually wouldn't mind if that was the kind of naval combat that we would get. What also makes me feel like these leaks have some sort of legitimacy is the fact that the poster talks about the bounty system, so it's either a well-educated troll, very possible, or potentially it may be legitimate. The leak says that each region will have their own bounty system, and that the bounty system wouldn't transition across to another area, such as leaving India and moving into Pakistan. So that kind of sounds good, that the bounties stay in their corridor region, instead of some sort of bounty system which just follows you around the whole map regardless of where you go. Now this game would also only be releasing on new gen consoles, which is a big move. We did see that with Unity when it came out, so that I can also see that happening here. It'll be a year or so from now, which would allow people to get their hands on the new consoles, so I don't think Ubisoft would be diluting their sales too much by just restricting it to that particular console release. Now, if any of these leaks do end up being legitimate, I think we've got some pretty good stuff to look forward to. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments, and if you haven't already done so, a like on the video helps me out loads, you ledge. Now, DLC leaks, let's chat about these bad boys, and we actually may be getting a different setting to India if these leaks are legitimate. And to be honest, I'm more enticed and excited about these particular leaks than the India ones, but I'll get into that in a little bit more detail shortly. First up though, let's talk about Wrath of the Druids going into Ireland, which we'll actually be getting to play this as early as March, so only a month or so away, which is great news because this weekly Helix Armor set is all we're getting right now, and it sucks. And in the same leak post, and by the way, I should say, potential heavy, salty spoiler warning inbound. Well, Halfdan, if you remember him, he returns to Ireland, which we can only hypothesize as maybe because Ivor, who ruled Ireland at the time, thank you Wikipedia, is now dead, whoopsie, and wishes to take Ireland for himself. Well, anyway, Halfdan dies, and allegedly we actually head across to deal with the Druid cult who have killed him. In the process, we actually do become allies with the King of Dublin, King Bard. Hooray! And that sounds pretty fun, to be honest with you. But moving on to our next leak rumour, and this is about the Siege of Paris, which will be landing around E3, where I think we'll be get the usual video showcase and potentially our new game spoiler. Now, if you remember, Rollo, who is actually a part of our Jomsviking crew, if you choose to have him in there, plays a big part in actual history, and this expansion will be about Eivor allegedly heading across to Paris to help Rollo siege the city of Paris itself. I did actually have a stab in the dark about this exact storyline idea in the 25 Things to Know video, so I'm probably a little bit biased when it comes to this leak because I actually think it's going to happen. But then we end up making friends with this guy called Count Odo, who is another historical character, and he becomes king of West Francia. Wikipedia, you bad man. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you historians down below, Count Odo doesn't actually become allies with the Vikings back in the day, so I reckon there'll be some sort of assassin convenience relationship there, like Connor with George Washington. This kind of mutual relationship to build upon an agreement behind closed doors kind of thing. So this leak also goes on to say that we end up defeating Charles the Fat of France, which will be a longer DLC expansion than that of the Wrath of the Druids. And this is going to include some pretty hefty story elements incorporating a lot of Basim and Isu, which is going to set us up nicely for the next game. Now, another rumor which has come up in conjunction with these internal leaks is an internal project called Assassin's Creed Champion. This will be a classical European take in medieval France and Germany, which is said to be releasing in 2022. So we have a India and medieval Europe game potentially this year, all separate games entirely, or none at all. I'm actually more inclined to believe this medieval Europe setting, as if you recall, a lot of the bureaus left letters in Saxon England stating that they were fleeing to the Cologne bureau. So that would make a lot of sense here. We also haven't had a setting in the Holy Roman Empire yet, which was a huge historic empire that shaped the world and Europe with so many historical figures, and we know how much Ubisoft loves that kind of thing. So I reckon we'll be getting a King Arthur, Lord of the Rings style fantasy game with medieval knights, swords, please be swords, and castles. It makes more sense from a business point of view to reuse Valhalla assets in that kind of time period, in my honest opinion, and I think that we'll be exploring India 2 years or so from now, because some of those leaks do seem to be pretty grounded and reasonable in my opinion as well. Now, if you've made it to the end of the video, I've got good news. You may want to join our first ever community giveaway of 1,000 Helix credits, which I'm really excited about, and it's a great way for me to give back to you, give you a firm handshake, and thank you for supporting the channel. All you need to do is be a subscriber and click the link below to enter. Also, check out our new Discord channel. It's brand new, and if you fancy getting involved in a small but growing community, we'd love to see you in the lobby, and the first 50 members are getting the cool new founder rank, which is pretty sweet because I'm going to be making Assassin's Creed videos for the foreseeable. But that's enough for me. Enjoy your day, dudes, and I will catch you in the next one. Coffee's on me.